So to me, pleasure is a sacred experience. Receiving and feeling pleasure is one of the highest expressions of gratitude. It's as devotional as any bhakti path. Long ago, in matriarchal cultures, women would practice pleasure together as a way of accessing our creational power. We would feel our desire to be filled with creational energy, which would awaken our feminine receptivity. And this is more of the feminine experience of desire. It's more of a magnetic drawing inward force rather than an outward reaching force. Back then, we were more expanded beings in that we had a more interconnected versus individual self-awareness. And through practicing pleasure, we would give birth to not only other life forms, but whole states of consciousness, similar to how women give birth to babies today. And when matriarchal culture was destroyed, which was about 4,000 years ago, the men knew that they could not destroy our belief system, but they could replace it. And that was the beginning of patriarchal religion and the Gregorian calendar. And that's when the feminine, the body, and our sexual energy became the unholy trinity. And when you think about it, how do you control people? If you want to control a people, you disempower them. And the first thing you do is you disconnect them from their bodies, you disconnect them from their life force, and our sexual energy is our life force. It's the stuff we birth life with. And you disconnect them from nature. And so women today hold both the knowledge of our power and our fear and shame around our power in our feminine sex organs. And menstrual cramps are evidence of this contracted, concentrated creational energy that we hold in our ovaries. So our fear of the world, our fear of men or sex is really our projected fear of our own creational power that's been demonized. And through consciously practicing pleasure and loving our bodies and claiming our feminine sexuality, we not only awaken our creational power, we dissolve the veils of guilt and shame around it. In my own background, to give you a little bit, through my study of Tantra, through my own pleasure practice, I've healed sexual abuse. I was molested as a child, raped as a young woman. I also have healed cervical cancer. That's when my deeper Tantra practice began. So I'd like to talk a little about my Women's Sexual Mystery School. I have 3 main goals. The first one is to return sexuality to its sacred seat, to bridge our sexuality and our spirituality. And the second goal is to expand our understanding of our sexuality beyond what happens in the bedroom, beyond what happens with a lover. And the third goal, particularly for women, is to help women reclaim specifically our feminine sexuality by untangling it from masculine, from patriarchal conditioning, which is our primary understanding of sexuality right now, and I'll get into that a little bit later. So I want to empower women from the root up by giving them a more personal, direct relationship with Shakti, their sexual energy. And Shakti, of course, is the archetype, the goddess of the primal goddess of creational energy. And she's also in the body, she's the Kundalini, she's the serpentine energy within each one of us. And so Shakti comes from the Sanskrit word shak, which means power or to empower. So it's connecting women with the source of their power. And so when you think about it, our sexuality is the seat of our femininity. It's what distinguishes us from the masculine sex. And so our beliefs about our feminine bodies and sexuality are connected to everything that we believe about ourselves. For example, our worthiness and our ability to receive abundance is connected to our capacity to receive pleasure. And our ability to feel our desire is connected to our ability to direct creational energy and manifest in the world. Our connection to our pelvic temples and our feminine sex organs reflects our capacity to trust ourselves, to trust creational energy or life, to be able to be trustworthy to others. So I'd like to give you a taste of a simple pleasure practice. And I'd like you to start by just breathing deeply into your pelvis and pushing the pelvic floor down with the inhale, feeling your breath go all the way down. See if you can even touch your vagina with your breath. Go all the way down where your lips of your yoni just spread open a little with the breath. And so then I want you to start rocking on your tailbone. And so when you breathe in, the tailbone is going to stick out. And when you exhale, the tailbone is going to curl under. And when you inhale and the tailbone sticks out, you'll notice your yoni, your vagina, it becomes parallel to the earth. It's like your yoni is kissing the earth on the inhale, and then the tailbone curls back under. And on the inhale, you're kissing the earth, and you're actually imagine sipping energy through your yoni on the inhale as it goes down. And then exhale and imagine scooping that energy from your yoni into your ovaries. And you're inhaling, your tailbone goes out, your yoni kisses the earth and sips in energy from the earth. And exhale, scooping the energy into your ovaries, receiving. And just continue the practice of breathing in, tailbone out, sipping energy through your vagina. Tailbone curls under, you're scooping that energy into your ovaries. And it feels really good to do this. It's such a simple thing, but it feels really good. And on the end of the exhale, you can even add a little root squeeze where you pull up with your perineum muscles just slightly. If you can't, your perineum is in between your anus and your genitals. If you can't do that, you can squeeze your anus slightly. And it's just at the end of the exhale, just imagining kind of plugging the energy. You receive it, you're scooping it into your ovaries, and you're kind of plugging the energy to store it. So after some breaths like this, what I want you to do on the next inhale, we're going to imagine breathing the energy all the way up from your ovaries to your breasts. And when we do this, we're going to breathe still deeply down into the pelvis, but the energy is going up from our ovaries to our breasts. And we're going to hold the breath in, and we're going to circle our breasts with our hands. And we'll make outward circles where your hands are going up and out and around your breasts. And when you breathe the energy up from your ovaries to your breasts, you can stop rocking on your tailbone and just squeeze the root. So you'll be squeezing your perineum, your root, holding the breath. So let's try that together. So inhaling deep down into your pelvis while energy is coming up from your ovaries to your breasts, holding the breath, squeezing the root, and then circling your breasts with your hands. Holding the breath. If you need to take in more air, just sniff in more air. And release the contraction in your root as well. And then just continue. Let's do some more rocking on the tailbone, sipping in energy, scooping it back into the ovaries. So we'll do this a few times before going back to bringing the energy from the ovaries up to the breasts. Okay, getting ready. The next inhale, breathing the energy up from the ovaries to the breast, squeezing your root, holding the breath, circling your breasts. And do as many circles as you can, sniffing in more air if you need it. And exhaling, releasing the contraction, energy going back down. And just rocking again on the tailbone, sipping energy in from the earth, scooping it into your ovaries. Doing a few breaths like this, making it feel really good. And getting ready to bring the energy up again to your breasts. And on the next inhale, deep inhale, bringing the energy up, squeezing your root, holding your breath, and circling the breasts. Circle as many times as you can, going for 12 if you can, 12 each time. And exhaling, releasing the contraction, and then just breathing normal, releasing all technique, and see how you feel. So you should feel kind of a soft buzzing energy. What this does is you'll get your oxytocin flowing. It's connecting your sexual energy in your heart. Women receive through our Yoni, we give out through our nipples, our breasts. So there's a circuit that's being completed. And so ideally you would do this just as we did for each time when you bring the energy up to your breasts, you'll do 12 circles around your breast for a total of 36. So that buzzing energy you feel, that feel-good oxytocin is of course what you feel after making love. And, of course we've just done it for, a minute or two. So you're not going to feel that total dopamine high that you do when you have sex. But my belief is that love is actually a higher octave of life force. And so when women don't know how to access and circulate our life force, we will compromise ourselves in love. And we will give way more than we receive. We will deplete our energy. So having an understanding of our sexual energy and circuitry works across the whole board of our life. So now I'd like to talk about the third goal, which is helping women to specifically reclaim our feminine sexuality from patriarchal conditioning. So, and to talk a little bit about the differences between testosterone-driven sex versus a more feminine sexual experience. The reason why many women are interested in sex, and especially when we get older and we connect to our deeper feminine being, is because sex right now in the world has more of a masculine flavor. And I'd like to specifically break down different components to give you an understanding of this. And I'd like to begin with meditation. So right now, meditation is most meditation is more masculine. Actually, yoga was designed for male bodies, male consciousness. In the recent years, there's more of a feminine flow, dance is being brought into yoga, but it was formed more for the masculine consciousness. So, and meditation, I would be in these meditation circles and I just wouldn't get it. And I always felt, I would feel blissful, but I would feel more disembodied when I would do meditation. And so right now, how people are guiding meditation, the experience is more of an upward and outward experience. The masculine path is more of an ascension and an evolutionary path of moving up and out into the light. And I'll talk about that in detail in a little bit. So the feminine, a more feminine experience of meditation is going inward and down towards the dark. So it's a completely different experience, and I want to give you your own experience right now. So what I'd like you to do is you can either lay down, or if you're sitting in a chair, close your eyes. Let's start with that. And breathe deep down. Same thing that we did before. Breathing deep down into your pelvis, pushing your pelvic floor down on each inhale. And so if you're sitting in a chair, I want you to imagine the chair is tipping backward, and it's just tipping backward gently so you don't fall hard on the floor. It's very supported so that you're tipping back and you're resting on the ground. You're falling. And what I want you to feel, whether you're laying down or in this chair, as if you are falling backwards into blackness. So your energy is going down and in to the back of your body, and then you're falling backwards, free falling into darkness. And staying with a deep breath as you fall into that silent, still, fertile darkness. Feel the darkness all around you, this luminescent darkness, this opalescent darkness filling your cells, saturating you. And just let yourself keep breathing and free falling backwards, deeper and deeper, letting go of the surface world and allowing yourself to be nourished by this deep dark of the feminine. So, and just slowly then take another deep breath, and you can open your eyes. So some people, when I do this meditation, and of course we did it very quickly for about 30 seconds, but some people will have fear because it feels very out of control to be falling backwards. And that out of controlness is our fear of the unknown. And I would say the feminine realm is more of the unknown. It's the feminine realm is more of the subconscious realm. It's what we've suppressed and pushed into the subconscious. So others have, it's a very nourishing experience. It's like being very held in Mother Earth and just kind of going deeper and deeper into Mother Earth, and they'll have this feeling of their bodies feeling more embodied and feeling a kind of a soft density in their body. So that's something for you to play with more on your own. But I just wanted to give you the difference between feminine and masculine meditation. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is our understanding of desire. So first of all, desire is not a human-made force. It's not the way we understand it, how when we desire something, we are reaching outward and grasping for it. And most religions have called desire the root of all evil, because this is the more masculine experience of desire. And the more feminine experience is a more magnetic, inward force. So, and I want to talk about desire in terms of it being creational energy. How I see desire is it is the direction and the movement of creation. It is creational force moving through us. So, to give you a little quantum physics lesson, most of you know that empty space, so pure empty space, pure equilibrium, is both empty and full. Perfect equilibrium is also holding the dynamic tension of opposites. So what happened is that space started expanding out to infinity large, which was the more young, masculine pull of space going out into the light. The more feminine, the more yin movement of energy, of space, was imploding down towards infinity small, becoming more and more contracted, dense, down into that point of singularity. And these 2 points, so all of creation was made from this expansion and contraction of space that is still being held today in everything. So the point directly in between these opposite energies is not on the same plane as these two energies. It's on a plane above. So it's the geometry would be a triangle. So and then it makes like an arrowhead. It makes so it's this pointing directing energy of creation. So I would say that is the point of desire. It's the midpoint between the yin and the yang, which is on a plane above. So it's constantly evolving, but it needs both energies to continue. So right now there's an imbalance, I would say, between this yang-yin energy on our planet, and it's why there's all this radiation. For example, the global warming, the masculine is more of an extending, radiating out to infinity large, versus the yin is again more of an imploding in, contracting, densifying into a point of singularity. Okay, so this next practice you can either do with your partner, if you happen to have one around, or you can do it in front of a mirror with yourself. So what I want you to do is you're sitting across from this other, and I want you to breathe into the back side of your body, and specifically inhale to the back of your heart. So, or your heart chakra, so that you're breathing to your spine behind your heart. And as you breathe, you'll feel a spaciousness behind your heart. And as you breathe, feel this space behind your heart softening and opening even wider. So the back side of the body is the yin side, the feminine side, the receptive side. And so what you're doing is you're breathing into your deep receptive heart, and notice how good you feel here. So in this place, you can receive more. You can be received more. You can receive others more. And you can also give more, because you're giving from a more sourced space. And now I want you to notice, as you're looking at yourself or your partner, the tendency to move out with your energy, the tendency to move more to the front of your body. So what we do, especially in relationships, is we have these dynamics that pull us more out into the front of our body. And so anytime we like someone, we want to help someone, anytime we feel uncomfortable in our skin and would rather jump into somebody else's field, or they are feeling uncomfortable and we want to help them feel more comfortable, we will move to the front of our body, and instead of staying in our more sourced place in the backside. So, and women especially do this. And what happens is we deplete ourselves, we deplete our energy by living more in the front. And so, and this happens particularly with lovers, because there will be opposite dynamics between them, and they're both pulling each other out. And so it will change your life to just sit in the back of your body, in your heart, and it changes the way you make love also. You're making love from a more receptive place, and you will have a deeper, more sensitive experience in doing this. So coming back to your back heart, taking a few more deep breaths, noticing the difference when you move from the front of your body to the back. This is how you can stay more objective about your experience, more clear, how you can have healthy, self-loving boundaries. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is our understanding of pleasure. And so right now we have a more masculine, young understanding of pleasure. It's pleasure is seen as a more light experience. We especially see pleasure as things outside of us. That's how we more tend to receive pleasure. And definitely pleasure is also seen as the opposite of pain, and sometimes the avoidance or the escape from pain, a moving out, a radiating out away from density. So again, the feminine experience is a more imploding in, going deeper into our human density. And so I'd first want to reframe pain. So pain, whether it be emotional or physical, and all emotional pain actually is also in the body. So what it is really just contracted, concentrated energy. It's our creational power, all tied up in knots with beliefs, wounds that we've suppressed and don't want to feel. And we will hold it in our bodies, and we'll have experiences that will trigger this ball of energy that we've just hidden in the dark of our being. So actually, our greatest pleasure can be found in our deepest pain, because that's energy that's just been held there. And when it's freed, we have all this, so much more access to our life force and to wisdom than we did before. It's like being born again when we can unwind this deep pain. So I would say pleasure is not the opposite of pain. Pleasure is the origin, the essence of pain. So all pain returns to pleasure. And so how we can do this, how we return our pain to pleasure is we meet it, we go into it with our breath, with our awareness. So what you can do now is feel any tightness in your body, anywhere that you're holding just tight, contracted energy. And see if you can breathe into that pocket. Just bring your awareness there, and what my mantra is expand into the contraction with the breath. And when you breathe there and bring your awareness there, that tight space begins to soften just a little. And so all that tangled up energy has space a little, it can open a little more. And as it opens, it starts to unwind, it starts to untangle. And you can start to see the individual beliefs, the individual wounds, the things, the tendrils that are all tangled up together. You can see them. So instead of it being this big ball of pain that you don't know why it's there, you can untangle it and pull all these tight strings apart and unwind it. And I've had direct experience with this both in my own body and working with clients. There's a saying that goes, fear with breath becomes excitement for the unknown. I will add anger with breath becomes clarity, becomes passion. And when you think about it, where do we hold the most suppressed, contracted, concentrated energy? We hold it in our root and pelvic chakras. They are the hotbed for the subconscious. And this is why sex is a particularly coveted form of pleasure. I mean, we think it's because, oh, I love this person, I love them, but really when we are being penetrated by whether it's a fingers or a dildo or a phallus, we are going into where we're holding tight all this suppressed feminine energy and we're opening it up, we're blasting it open. And the reason it doesn't stay open a lot of times in sexual experiences is because we're not doing it fully conscious. We give our power away to the other person. We're not really knowing what's happening. So I'm telling you right now, when you have sex, now you have a deeper understanding of that, and you can start to actually unwind suppressed feminine energy through sex, and which is why I've been such a pleasure activist and an advocate for sex all my life. So Eckhart Tolle, for those of you who've read his book, A New Earth, it came out maybe, 7-8 years ago. So he talks a lot about the pain body, and he specifically links the pain body to women. He says, I think he even says the feminine pain body. And there's only a small part in the book, but I remember reading it and just having an aha moment where he says that if women were to really go into our menses and to really experience the pain in our menses, we could heal the collective pain body in the world. And so, which really makes me feel like, the feminine sex organs are the pain body headquarters. And so, which then made me think, well, if there's a pain body, there must also be a pleasure body. In fact, the pain body, like I said, the pleasure body is the origin of that pain body. So, and then I read there's actually a Sanskrit word for the pleasure body. It's called the bliss body, Sambhogakaya. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. That's not my strong suit. But so I believe that this is the next evolution for humanity, to awaken and to live in our pleasure body, in our bliss body. And it's different from what people think a lot of times when I say that. It's not that we're going to have all these orgies and mayhem and hedonism. It's the deep pleasure. It's unwinding the pain body, healing the pain body, and awakening the pleasure body of humanity. So, which brings me to our understanding of the body. So right now we have a more masculine, young mind understanding of the body. Right now we see the body as a pack mule to carry the head around. So the feminine experience of the body is a temple. And, we pay lip service to that, where we are caring for our bodies now more than ever, which is great. We have holistic medicine. People are tending to look for other options other than surgery. A statistic I'm especially excited about is there's been finally a drop in hysterectomies, which were going up and up every year. And most of those hysterectomies were elective. So I'm really grateful that women are loving our bodies more. Because really all our organs are our elder council. They were born before our individual conscious mind. And our feminine sex organs are like our inner grandmother council. So we're always looking outside for our wisdom. We do workshops, we go to astrologists and psychics, we go to psychologists, we do ayahuasca journeys, when really we have this elder council in our bodies, and how disconnected we are from the earth, and her wisdom is evidence of how disconnected we are from our bodies and our own inner counsel. So I'd like to share a little bit about my personal story. I did this experiment where I committed to spending 30 minutes a day with my yoni, my vagina. Initially, I began this practice because I had broken up with a long-term boyfriend, and I was getting close to turning 50. And what I recognized is that I had outsourced my sexual energy, desire, pleasure to men, to my lovers. And I had not taken responsibility for sourcing my own pleasure. And so I wanted to do this experiment of opening to my pleasure. And I would say that's one of my, I call it the sober women truths in my workshops when I teach, is that women are responsible for generating our own sexual energy and desire. So after the first month or so of more surfacey orgasms, I decided to make it not so much about orgasming as it was having a conversation with my yoni. And what this did is it helped me unhook my belief that my vagina was a sex object. And this is part of the work I do with women. I help women reclaim our yonis and our feminine bodies free from objectification, so that we can have a completely new foundation for our sexual experience. So every day I would go inside with my fingers into my yoni, and what I would start to feel, I could feel certain pockets where my finger was guided. There was more heat, or there would be a pulsing, or it felt extra tight. And so knowing what I did about breathing into, bringing my awareness into contracted energy, that's what I would do. I would hold my finger on this place, this little spot that seemed a little different in my yoni, and I would open it with my breath. And what would happen is it came in layers for me. So the first layer was I started to have vivid memories from my childhood. So all my life I had had flashes of memory of possible abuse, of being sexually molested, and I could never put my finger on it. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about denial in a little bit. But so, and over the years, things would come, but I did a therapy around it, and I went to, various healers, and everyone again would say, yes, this happened, but I didn't feel clear. And so something happened when I did my own yoni work on myself. The memories became clearer. There just was, I recognized my abuser for the first time. I had some very vivid dreams come during this time. So sometimes it wouldn't happen right in my experience when I was doing my yoni work. It would come in a dream. But there was a deep recognition of, yes, this happened, and a reclaiming of my wounds that I would say happened. And along with that came, emotions, very strong, intense emotions. And sometimes the emotions would come first. Sometimes I would hold a spot and I would feel a lot of grief, or I would hold another spot and feel a lot of rage. And so sometimes it was just the emotion, and that wasn't attached to anything. And other times it would be a flash of a memory that would come. Sometimes statements would come, it's dangerous for me to be in a feminine body. My pleasure is dangerous. Things like that. And so I would breathe into these, and the subconscious speaks a language that doesn't always make sense. So if you do this on your own, you just have to allow what comes. And, after you do your Yoni work, you can journal it, and things will start to make sense if you do it on a consistent basis. So the next layer that came for me after reclaiming my wounds is my own anti-feminine beliefs, and this was really humbling. I've been an advocate for the feminine all my life. I do sacred theater for the on behalf of the feminine. I have this women's sexual mystery school, and I had to face my own anti-feminine beliefs, and they just came up, and so it was a lot of self-forgiveness, a lot of compassion, and basically, so that was the way that I claimed responsibility for my wounds. I could see, in a sense, that these beliefs were there before my wounds. I mean, for example, one is just a refusal to be embodied. I got kind of a spiritual arrogance of I'm above being a body, and so leaving myself open for others to just occupy my body and violate, and so there was this hatred of the body, not just my body, but a hatred of the body, a devaluing of it. So that's one example. So the next layer after that was starting to see the patterns in my life that are connected to these anti-feminine beliefs. Seeing how my my fear of my pleasure, my fear of my feminine was connected to my inability to receive abundance or manifest in the world. I started to see the connections between those beliefs and my kind of outer worldly experience. And then the next layer that came was this deep gratitude and reverence and awe for my feminine temple and for my yoni and for all my feminine sex organs, and not just me caring for them, but them as my elders, them and in the way that indigenous people care for their elders. That's how I began to feel about my feminine temple and my body. And so there's another connection also, how we treat our elders and just put them away is evidence of, how we are, how disconnected we are from the elders in our body. And so then the last layer that came is the wisdom. And so that's when just a lot of information started to download and pour out. And so when I do my workshops, a lot of women want to skip right to the wisdom. And it's the body won't allow it. There's layers that must be, the wisdom is part of all these other layers. So you can't go right to the wisdom without doing the first part. Okay, so now I'd like to talk about our understanding of sex. So right now, again, it's a more, I would say, a masculine yang, extending out, a more horizontal experience between bodies. It's connecting with another body. And really the feminine experience is more of an inward vertical experience. It's really, sex is about deeply connecting with our self, with our unknown self, the God self. So I see sex as a sort of advanced Untangling practice. So for those of you who don't know what Untangling is, it's a Buddhist practice which is all about, breathing in the evils of the world, breathing in all that, we judge as evil, all the things that we're afraid of, and we breathe it in and we embrace it and we breathe out our compassion and our love. And so we turn those things that we see as evil, we turn them into love from the inside out. And so, when you think about it, sex, you're allowing somebody, especially for women, we're allowing the other into our bodies. And the other, represents the world. The other represents our unknown self. So it's both, in our relationships with our lovers are both, they are divine one moment and they are evil the next moment. So I see sex as not only receiving my divinity, but also taking in that which I am most afraid of and that which I judge, and embracing it in the love I am and offering love in return. And so I'd like to talk about denial for a little bit. I see denial as the opposite of desire. We either desire life, we desire to open, or we deny life. We push our lovers away. So there are 3 levels of denial, 3 main levels. So the surface level is to just push something away, to dismiss something. And we do this all the time. We have, intuitions that come up and we will dismiss them. We feel certain impulses and we push it away. So, but the next level is an attempt to cast something out of existence by pushing it into the subconscious. So this is what we do when we have a bad breakup with a lover and they are dead to us. We are never going to speak to them again, and we cast them out of our existence. And So we also do this with all kinds of experiences all the time. We have an experience, it's too much for us to process in the moment, so we deny that it ever happened. We push it into our subconscious. This is often the case when women have been molested. We don't even remember our experience until much later in our lives. So the third level of denial is an attempt to destroy something. And this is the more sinister motive, I would say, for patriarchal religion. It was an attempt to destroy matriarchal culture, to demonize the feminine, the body, and our sexual energy. And it's still somewhat in place today, so they did a pretty good job. But this is also what we have done with our God self, our unknown self. So I have a phrase I'd like to offer you, and I'd just like you to close your eyes and put your hands on your heart and just repeat these words to your beloved unknown self as I speak them. I denied you because I loved you. So now you say, I denied you because I loved you. And the pain of loving you and my fear of losing you was too much. But because you love me, I cannot deny you. Let's do it again. I denied you because I loved you. And the pain of loving you and my fear of losing you was too much. But because you love me, I cannot deny you. And let's do it one more time. I denied you because I loved you. And the pain of loving you and my fear of losing you was too much. But because you love me, I cannot deny you. And just feel what you feel when you say these words to yourself. A lot of times in my workshops, these words bring up a lot of grief. So I'd like to just end with this quote. And you can keep your eyes closed and your hands on your heart. When I turn my face away from my longing, because of my fear of being the fool, I must work to cover the cracks of my resolve, to abandon the heat of my desire. But my soul is too aligned with life to give up. Late at night, when I am too weary to push away the longing, she comes looking for me, begging me to simply be with her and my fear of her. I can hear her, a small, insistent voice, asking me to remember that desire lived brings the ecstasy of falling more in love with my own life every day. And in this moment of remembering, no risk seems too great. Thank you so much for listening. Love and Shakti to all.